Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Today I'm going to show you how to get up and running with the Champion distribution. Now Champion is a Drupal 7 distribution that's seeking to be the best workflow for getting web components up and going. If you're not sure what web components are, I highly recommend you check out the Web Components module or webcomponents.org. It's kind of this endless array of front-end HTML tags that you can kind of assemble like Lego bricks. So, if you're used to module development, think of having that same capability on the front end. So I've been porting the Web Components module and Web Components and HAX system we'll talk about in a bit to a bunch of different CMSs, because the idea is to kind of flip the development paradigm. So instead of building on our back end and then going, hey, what does it look like, and mashing the two together, that we're kind of working towards a hybrid and completely decoupled apps. So how do we have a distro that lets us do that? So that's what Champion's for. So I'm going to get Champion now and talk through kind of what the setup workflow is. So I'm going to throw this onto a VM I already have. So I'm copy address to the zip. I'm just going to put it right on my VM. I've already got a space in place here, so we're going to do a wget that address, and it's going to go and snag this from Drupal.org. It's pretty fast. Okay, now I can do, we're going to unzip Champion. Now I've got this already on a box, right? You probably would put this somewhere local, put it into version control, things like that. I'm going to move Champion to Champion just so it's easier to type. And then I'm going to remove the zip file, and we're going to remove NPM just for funs. Okay, so now I've got just Champion there. If I go to my web address here, this is, you're probably going to have a local host, right? I just had a VM already running, so I decided to put it on this already running VM. So in this case, it's going to be at Champion, and then it should skip the initial install step, and you should see just Champion install. And so what I'm going to do now is, it says after downloading, go to this directory. So I'm going to go cd into Champion, and then I'm going to cd to profiles, Champion, modules, and I don't believe it's HAX. It's in contrib. So then cd contrib and cd HAX. And in here we should see a bower.json. There it is. So if you're not familiar with running bower commands, bower is kind of this package management system. It is deprecated at this point, but Polymer still uses it in its kind of path resolving and things. So we're going to follow the directions, which I do have to update that one piece there. And we're going to copy this file over to sites all libraries web components Polymer. And now that directory doesn't exist yet. So we're going to go cd cd champion sites all libraries, and there should be a placeholder. And we're going to make a directory for web components. Go into there. And then we're going to make a directory for Polymer. All right. And now we're going to copy that other file over here. So I'm going to copy, in my case here, it's domains online, my site, Champion profiles, Champion, and then modules, contrib, HAX. This is a mouthful. Bower.json. And we're going to copy this to bower.json over here. Okay, all that's with bower.json. So to look at what this bower.json is, just so you know what you're getting, this is all the dependencies for something we call HAX. So HAX, which is also installed with the Champion distribution, is short for Headless Authoring System or Experience. To see an example of what HAX is, you can go to haxtheweb.org, and this is a site giving you a little bit of information about HAX. Going to build it out into kind of its own little community. But the idea with HAX is that you can just reach out and kind of have this new form of editor. So this is actually going and rearranging DOM nodes and updating them in real time. The other idea is that it's a web component driven editor. So it's both made out of web components but engineered to edit and understand web components. So for example, this is a video-player tag. Because this is a video-player tag, HAX knows to ask it, hey, you're a custom element. Do you have any fields I can modify? The video player tag says, oh yeah, people can modify my responsive behavior. It's a Boolean. And so because the element has bubbled that message up, HAX knows, oh, well, it's a Boolean value. Okay, its title is responsive. So I'm going to create a checkbox that binds to a property in the DOM for that one thing. So we can do this all kind of stuff. I could have a color picker in the same way. I can, jump into almost like a full content type editing form type of experience, editing this form here. But the entire form is dictated by the element itself. And so I can modify these values and then inject it back in there. I can take this and say, hey, be 50%, we'll throw you in the middle, right? So, and then I can move it up in the DOM. So do some pretty neat stuff with it. It also has this concept of gizmos. And a gizmo is just our fancy way of saying web component. But gizmos let you do whatever that web component is. So let's say it's a CSV table. So this is a web component that takes as its input a CSV file, generates a fully accessible HTML table on demand. This is for accessibility improvement as well. You can even give a description for more detail, and that's only for screen readers. So insert that. Now I've got this in the DOM. Again, I can resize it, say it's over there, move it up. Heck, I can even copy it. And so this is kind of the experience that we want to be able to bring into Drupal, right? This is completely headless. This is just running in the browser via web components, very extensible system. But I want to be able to use this in Drupal. Now in the headless demo, I can hit export. It'll take all of that stuff and bundle it up, and I can even download it as a standalone file. Now this is a static file. It doesn't need HAX to run, and it's doing all the things that it did before. It's positioned the right way. It's referencing this. I can place this anywhere. So how do we get that into Drupal? Or any other system for that matter, but let's get that into Champion. So go back to my choose language here. I know I'm probably going to have to chmod this, but where we were before with the Bower file, right? So there's a whole bunch of dependencies, and this is what makes up that entire thing that I just showed you. Except when we get this integrated into a content management system, we have another web component called CMS HAX. And what CMS HAX does is it effectively encapsulates all that stuff I just showed you on that static website into a single tag that we can more easily integrate into content management systems. So it's a wrapper around the many parts of HAX, because HAX is pretty darn flexible. So I'm going to do a Bower install, or not an hour, Bower install. And Bower is going to go and snag all these assets. Now, again, you probably are not going to do this on a production machine. You're going to do this in local development. Very common if you've done any front-end development to do these types of things of using package managers and pulling all this together. This is going to go and pull in all the assets required to run this thing. If you get any, like, hey, what version do you want to use? Generally speaking, you can pick the newest thing. So, for a few of those, I had to pick option 3 or 2 based on if I wanted a 2x or 1x. What that all did is it grabbed a whole ton of files, it threw them in Bower-components or underscore components. You see there's just a ton of stuff in there now. And so this basically went and got all our dependencies. So for example, if I do HAX or CMS-HAX, we can see we now have something called CMS-HAX.html in a directory here. And this is a web component. This is web components can reference other web components, and so it's pulling in all those other resources. It's expressing exactly how to display this, what other tags to put down, and then the HAX module basically interfaces with this one file. so you can get the UX patterns that we're going to show. So I've got all those dependencies. I'm going to do one more thing, and this is just to make it work, to be perfectly honest. You know, you would set permissions to what you want them to be, but I'm going to do sudo chmod 777-rf champion star. And so what I just did there is that's going to set the permissions to be aggressively public. You're not going to want to do that, obviously, you know, just to make it work. But I wanted to just get to this step to say, hey, these permissions are safe. Okay, so I'm going to go into here, follow what Drupal says. I'm going to sites default. I'm going to copy default settings to settings.php. Make it writable. This is exactly the part that I was trying to avoid before. 777 settings. Okay, it's going to ask me for where it's going to go. And I've cheated a little bit here. I already have a database that I put in place, and it's champion. And then my username and password are champion for it because I just want this to stink and run. So it's going to go off and install. You're going to get a lot of modules out of the box with this. In fact, 81, as it says. So what Champion's trying to do is repair a lot of the UX holes that are in D7 out of the box. So it's going to make it a little bit more like D8, to be perfectly honest. However, the point of this whole, you know, thing is not, oh, hey, let's go back and use Drupal 7. It's that HAX is intended to run, and these web components are intended to run and be installed across CMSs and across systems. So I could take the assets of webcomponents.org, in fact, we'll go there and look, and I could search for HAX-body, which is the thing that's powering that HAX the web website. I can see what all the things that go into it are. I can see, you know, definitions of how to use it by itself, the fact that it uses the JSON schema property system in order to generate those forms. So I can use all this stuff, right? I can search for other tags. And I can really start to decouple, not just think, oh, hey, I can decouple development, but actually start doing it, you know, being completely decoupled from any system and saying, what is, in this case, a card, right? If I want to project my donut shop in this case, what do I actually need? Not like doing the data modeling from the back end and then moving forward, right? Because our CMSs are getting that stuff automated and out of the way. So, all right, let's configure our site here. Champion admin@admin.admin. Admin. So you can hack into my local site, you know. It's, oh noes. Okay, United States just for funsies. No, don't do those. Okay. Save and continue. So now I have Champion up and going. And shouldn't look like much. Should look like this thing that all people that don't like Drupal go, oh yeah, that's Drupal, because I can see that. Some minor changes though out of the box. Immediately you can tell. If I hit the tilde key on the keyboard, then collapses that. I can, you know, get the admin menu and look, you know, skim around through some things. I can go into the different parts of this, right, and see that there's a lot more options than one would expect out of the box. So let's add some content. So I'm going to add a node. This also installed with an example GovCon banner because the Web Components module is meant for doing way more than what I'm showing with this part. Page title here. And so let's just do p tag. This is content. Okay, and we can see I'm in full HTML mode, and there shouldn't be anything other than that as far as this format. So hit save. Now you'll see I get this HAX mode button, and HAX mode is going to behave a little bit differently than a normal page load. But let's look at page source here for a second and see that we've got a whole bunch of weird stuff in here, right? So what the Web Components module is doing is it's effectively looking through your site for things that smell like Web Components. And so when you ran that Bower install, you put all those assets in. Let's assume that you built all of them ahead of time or you knew what you were implementing, right? But Drupal doesn't know that. So what the Web Components module does, if you go to drupal.org Web Components, you can see, we did a post on it. We had a talk at DrupalCon Baltimore in 2017 about it, and that there's actually a lot more things that you can do with this module than what we're showing. So one of the more powerful aspects of it is it's going to read off the file system things that look like Polymer Web Components. Now Web Components module can be taught how to identify other elements, but for starters we did Polymer because Polymer is just a very popular project for making web components. And so it's going to find everything that was placed in libraries, web components, Polymer, Bower component, or just Polymer actually, but it's going to find all that stuff in our Bower components, and it's going to go, oh, I found a, we'll say paper button I know is one. So I found a paper button. So if we go and look at paper button, we can see, hey, sure enough, paper button, the thing that Google made that makes a button that kind of ripples when you tap it. I can now go to webcomponents.org. We'll say, all right, let's see what the definition of a paper button is. Paper button. Cool, so there's some example paper buttons. So now, with these custom web components, I can copy, and because these exist in my Drupal site, I'm going to throw them in. So I'm just going to throw them in here. And now I've got these different tap events, right? Because the browser doesn't know what a paper button is, right? And Drupal doesn't know what a paper button is, typically. But now, because the page is importing paper button, the browser is taught about what the definition of paper button is, which is kind of what's going on with the web component. And then it's going, oh, but you mean this. So now I get this nice tap toggles type of a thing with a little Hadoop effect on it. I can tab to it, and you see it behaves differently than a traditional link would. I can't tab to the disabled thing. So these can have a lot of accessibility types of things baked into them as well, which is pretty awesome. So let's edit that. I'm going to get rid of those buttons because I don't want them to influence this next piece. Paste, 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 paste. Cool. Okay, so let's put a couple paragraphs in. Save. Now we're going to go to HAX mode. And HAX mode is going to wrap the content of this page. Let's view page source to be transparent about what's going on here, because it will seem a little ridiculous. So it's going to take that CMS HAX tag that I had mentioned previously, and all it's going to do is it's going to take your content that I just wrote right there, and it's going to wrap CMS HAX onto that content. Then it's going to manufacture an endpoint. So the CMS HAX tag says, I need to know where the heck to save. So what the HAX module is doing is it's engineering a path, a menu path, callback if you will, in Drupal. So I can see HAX node save, 1 being for node 1 in this case, and then this is just a key that's going to change whenever, based on my session type of a thing. Then, and this is mostly for demonstrated purposes, just so you have some things to play with, it's going to add these available definitions to the page. And so it's going to add in PDF element and Wikipedia query and LRN table and video player and media image. And so you don't need those. There's actually in the settings, you can go and disable them or whatever, but you'll see in a sec what it does. So now I'm in HAX mode. I get a power button. So I'm going to hit the power button to edit, and now I can reach out and I can modify any of those paragraphs. I can also, you can see that that's offset quite a bit. There's a setting to tweak that. So let's just do this. Okay, so we took that text, move it down there, clone it, hit the power button. You see a little pop-up that says saved. So I'm going to refresh, and now I have that text still there. I'm going to go to view, and I still just have that text there. I'm going to go to edit, and this is one of the critical goals of HAX. Is you notice this is nothing you couldn't have just typed if you knew HTML already. And so we don't want any secret sauce to this stuff. Should just be manipulating the DOM so that you see exactly what you want, the way you want it, what a real WYSIWYG is supposed to be, and then throwing it there. Now, I'm going to quickly go to the HAX settings. So that's in config, content authoring HAX. And so we're going to see two settings on here. One is for elements to auto load, and one is for offset. So I already went in ahead of time. I know what the numerical value is, but I'm going to say that it's off by 284 pixels. This is just something I haven't been able to figure out quite yet. It has to do with translating box model values to different methods of calculating where something is. So if anyone wants to submit a PR to fix that so we don't need this offset, that would be awesome. But it has to do with calculating where the corner you're clicking is, unfortunately. Also, I know there's a bit of an issue with the PDF element, so I'm going to take that out just for the purposes of this demo. But if you don't want any of the gizmos, you can take these out. If you know that you've made new ones, you can add them in there. We'll be doing some future screencasts soon that show how to build your own. So we're going to do save config. Okay, now I'm going to go back to content, go to that page title here, and let's start doing some crazier stuff. So go to HAX mode. Okay, edit, and now insert text. Hey, that looks a little bit better. I can insert a heading. I could take that heading, make it bold and metallic, all that fun stuff, link it to somewhere, somewhere.com. Woo. Okay. I see it's blue. I hit save, and I know exactly what it is. I should see no visual difference between these two pages, other than potentially the word HAX. There we go. And so see a very minor adjustment of the font size between those two, probably because it's told to load a certain style sheet on Node, and this is technically like an edit form. So awesome. So let's go back to edit. Under more, you can see, hey, if I know there's an image or an iframe, I can throw those in. Divider as well, I can throw in some divs, or sorry, HR tags. So then those are HRs, as that would be visualized here. Expand that, so I click that one, delete it. So I can manipulate this content pretty quickly, duplicate things. Let's go to Gizmo Browser. So the gizmos, whoops, I hit the back button there, silly me. In the gizmos, there we go. You can see I got two interfaces here. Now, if you've used the HAXtheweb.org, there's a third one that we haven't added support just yet in this automated manner. HAXtheweb.org has a third one I'll show in a sec. But so I have add something or make a gizmo. And so right now this upload field is not functional. If someone wants to wire it up, that would be awesome. We do have some other examples where that is working. We just want to get it integrated in a generic way. But let's go to make gizmo. So those four tags are known to be gizmos. And a gizmo is just a different word for web component. We wanted to make sure that that word wasn't polluted when we were talking with people of different technical abilities or different roles in the production of material in our case. So I didn't want someone coming down saying like, well, couldn't we just add a web component for? And what they really mean is something to show up here for them to use as opposed to, actually a designed element somewhere else. Because we have an interface made of web components that is used for generating new web components, basically. So we call these gizmos, but effectively they're just web components that emit a little bit of metadata. And so part of that metadata they emit is the fact that they are a gizmo and the fact that they can show up here. And so let's do a Wikipedia article. And so when I select that, what it's doing is it's previewing over here that web component with two-way data binding to this form. The form has been dynamically generated by the component itself. There isn't Drupal involved in any of this part, although you could probably start to imagine if we had Drupal manufacturing web components on the fly based on the fields you lay out, you could do this type of a authoring interface, with content types in the page. But so I'm going to take this, let's put it in Drupal. There we go. So that returned from the Wikipedia public API, what is Drupal? Now I'm going to do insert, and now we've got the definition of Drupal from Wikipedia right there. The search term, a little goofed up as to where it's loaded. I need to tweak the styling a bit on that apparently. But I can take this and say, hey, you're 75% of the way across the page. Cool. You can duplicate that. Dupe. So now we got a lot of articles about Drupal, even though it's the same one. So go back and try something else. Let's do VideoPlayer. So VideoPlayer understands how to hit Vimeo and correctly insert it. It also understands YouTube. And it provides some style consistency, if I can spell. Right, so then I can say you're responsive or not. I can say red background, and it also is doing an accessibility thing there. So you see that's white text on red. If I make this too light, it's dark text on pink. Insert, and now I've got that video in the page. Oh, yeah, I need to make those show up the right place there. Make that 50% of the way. Not responsive anymore, so it won't actually respond to that. We could duplicate that video a bunch more. Let's go to Gizmos again. And you can see we had a styled image. So if we hit a JPG of that Yahoo, ugh, that guy. Throw in alt text. I want to make it round. I want to make it a card. I want to make it a box. And now it is. Insert. We've got that image in the page. 50% styling. And so you can see, this is a different way of generating and manipulating content, not just in Drupal, right? Because this would be system agnostic is what we're going for. So it's pretty stinking powerful approach. If we can start building these front-end assets, it actually is decoupling us from Drupal while leveraging the parts of Drupal that it does really well as a content management system as far as managing content. So one other fun little trick, and then we'll show the one of the more advanced aspects that we're going to get in the future here. If I throw in a YouTube video here into this add something field, it's going to jump. I'm going to hit configure item, and it's going to appear to jump a step. And so at first glance, you might say, oh, well, that's cool. It knows how to handle YouTube. But it only sort of knows how to handle YouTube. What it's actually doing is, and then again, in this case, it's an MP4. I can see, hey, that popular video that's there for everything. It started playing in my headphones. I had to knock it off. But if I throw that Big Buck Bunny MP3 in here, or MP4 rather, and hit configure item, it also is able to take me to this page and dump me to that form. I screwed it up by hitting it multiple times. Now you can probably hear it in the headphones. It does that video. Thank you for going away, video. It was killing me. I was going to put it on the page. So if I hit that and I do configure, apparently it doesn't like my MP4. I was under the impression it did. Okay, so maybe I have to teach it what an MP4 is. But what it's actually doing in this step to jump between these two, if we hit Gizmo, let's try the CSV. I think CSV will do it. There we go. It's making an educated guess based on the file type and analyzing the known gizmos. So if you didn't have VideoPlayer in this listing of available gizmos, and then you put it in a YouTube video, it wouldn't know what to do. It would just sit there. And so what we're trying to establish is that gizmos kind of have these ability to take in a certain type of a link or media type or whatever their input is. It might be just text, and then do something with it. And so the gizmos are actually expressing to the rest of HAX, hey, I'm not just Wikipedia or some Wikipedia tag. It looks like this. I can handle text input, and then whatever text input you give me, I'm going to immediately map to my search term. Or in the case of the video tag, I can handle something that smells like a video, right? So YouTube, Vimeo, MP4, and I want you to map whatever that thing that you claim is a video to my SRC tag. So it's basically just skipping a step here and auto-selecting. We're going to get into like popping up and going, hey, 3 things claim they can handle this video, and you just gave me a video. Similarly, we could go straight from uploading a video, jumping to that step or the selector to be like, oh, I see this is a video. Do you want to present it as a video, or do you want to present it as a link? Think of when you when you take a photo on your phone and then you say share. that intermediary step of, okay, well, how and where do you want to share this? That's kind of the paradigm we're going for here. So I made all those changes. I can hit save. And now we've got those in the page. Refresh, and just to prove that there's my picture of me there. My video players appear to go away on that one. So I'll have to take a look at that in the future. But you can see that there's my video player, and go back to view. You can see there's my image, me from before. There's my Wikipedia articles. So, you know, I'm going to show that there are some little bugs and all. I'm not going to say it's perfect. So it's definitely a large chunk of the way there as far as this just, you know, straight up integration here. We're using this in Elms LN. We're actually, you know, starting to. And so in Elms LN, if you haven't seen it in a while, I can go somewhere and I could get into HAX mode. And this is just leveraging that same thing you saw a second ago, right? I could select this video, and the styling is the reason I'm showing this. The styling's cleaned up, a bit more refined in its integration. What I could also do, and that was part of why I wanted to go here, is we're working on how would this look if it was integrated fully into something, right? That's nice to have a Drupal menu path and all, but like what if this was fully integrated into another application? So this is a way at which we would present our material to students. So pull this in, and if I don't hit a page that points out to all kinds of links that makes the app angry, there we go. This is still heavily in development here. But so let's say I have this content here, okay, and students are reading, they're getting some feedback, they can jump through. I could just skip to pages. You'll see this is lightning fast. This is actually using Drupal's book module as a backend. And so because it's using it as a backend, we can leverage the fact that Drupal knows how to express relationships between material really well and be a great CMS, but we can present it in this headless app that has a much snappier UI experience than Drupal's ever going to get. But to integrate, show HAX there, I can hit edit mode, and now I can edit my paragraphs just like I could previously. I can go into the Gizmo Browser, and I have this other option here, which is what I wanted to focus on. So this is an option that is available in the public demo as well, and the styling's a little more clean there, so I'll go to that. But part of the vision of this project is not just with the gizmos that I can add something, I upload and I've streamlined that, and then I can make something. It's also that this kind of starts to become your remote control for orchestrating your media universe, if you will, to focus on producing something. I don't care where it came from. I don't care how it got there. I just want it. I want to put a video on the page, right? That's what our users are saying. Or I just want to put that text there. They don't want to have to go hunt around, and that's sort of what the Wikipedia thing is supposed to lean towards. Is like, oh hey, it would be great to throw in a reference to Wikipedia here. Then let's just do it. Let's bring it to you instead of you go to Wikipedia, right? So that's where FindSomething comes in. FindSomething is leveraging a tag in HAX called HAX source, and in the near future, HAX source will allow for both directions. You'll be able to push stuff up to sources as expressed through HAX source, as well as find. But so we've got three things here. The media one is not going to do anything because that hits a custom endpoint on our side that I have since blown away. But YouTube and Vimeo will. And so if I hit YouTube, I can search for Elms LN in this case. And I'm getting results directly from YouTube. So I haven't gone to YouTube. YouTube's come to me, right? Now, I might be going to YouTube, right? And I might go to YouTube, and I might go to watch a video. Cool. So I found that video, right? If that's my user context, I found that video, and I go, I want to embed that. The fun thing about that is that link at the top in the URL that you probably are going to copy and paste is different from this share link, is different from this share link, is different from this share link, and this share link, and this share link, and this share link. And so what we've been able to do is say, okay, well, users are going to copy and paste that. So if my mental context was, hey, I found this great YouTube video, or I know where that YouTube video is, or it's in my bookmarks, or you send it to me, I can throw that in here. and it's going to resolve that to the correct embed URL and put it in place. Right? So I've skipped all of that ingestion of what this video is, all that cognitive load of like what link did I pick, do I put iframe tags, all that dissolves away, right? And I'm just focused on the thing that I meant to do, which was put this awesome YouTube video in here and hit save. And now I have that video in here. But let's say I just want to go exploring in here, like, oh, I need something on math. I'm not going to search for math. I don't know what will come up. But so I wanted this, what is ElmsLN YouTube video. Click that, and now it's as if I knew what the link was and I pasted it into that initial step and it jumped me to this step. Right? So I just searched YouTube and integrated a video from it, and I did it while I was rambling about how this works. If I want to go and find something on Vimeo, and I don't know what the best thing to find on Vimeo is, probably something about video games. There's got to be stuff about video games or arts and architecture, if I could spell. It's going to go and hit Vimeo API, and Vimeo API sometimes sends you weird stuff back, but that one worked. There we go. So this is a video caption. What I meant by weird stuff back is sometimes it sends you back the URL like with the words, like as if you made a short name, and right now we don't have that resolved in that tag. But so another really cool part about this whole development process is I can go, all right, so export and video player, right? And you can, for one, you can see and go, oh, that's awesome. That's player.vimeo.com. Now, for one, that's not what I put in, right? I actually put in this. So it's doing that resolution, and that was cool to know what it should be. But the other thing that's pretty sweet about this is I just told you there's a glitch in the presentation of that video player, right? I go, how in the world do I fix? Oh, that's right. That's right. I just go here and I type video player because we've registered it with webcomponents.org. And there's that video player tag. The developer experience of this is just phenomenal, right? I know exactly where to go right now to find the thing that's a glitch. And so I can tell you, right, that I am down here, and I have video color, Vimeo, 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 Vimeo. Okay, Vimeo, let's go back. And so Vimeo is here, so get the type and find out if it's Vimeo and do something with it. And so I could discern from this exactly the place that there's this issue with it coming across the wire and make sure that I get the right video in place. Another awesome thing is in those HAX sources. And so if we look at the way this page was constructed when it came across, and we search for HAX source, you can see that we don't actually have a YouTube integration tag, which I think is a critical thing to point out. And it's something that we'll be pulling into HAX for Drupal and HAX for everything. I've been working on HAX for Grav CMS. I'm going to do a video on that soon too. This is just presenting that HAX source and figuring out how to talk to it because I programmed a single tag. So all that searching interface, all of the querying for things and then figuring out what to insert, that just came right from this configuration of a single tag. And so again, if in the case of Vimeo, I can go back and say, oh, well, Vimeo doesn't do that correctly, right? Vimeo is, the ID in this case, right, which is going to get appended to the end of the thing. That's not correct. I need the actual ID in order to present it if it is a named file. I was able to identify that, while, again, rambling through it in a random walk talking about it. So that is kind of the vision of Champion, of HAX, of Web Components. If you're interested in getting involved in any of these projects, the ElmsLN team, we've got a pretty decent sized team now, has been working on pretty much this stuff exclusively. We're really focusing on Polymer and app development and hybrid apps and completely decoupled and kind of just all over the place, but all of it in Polymer and Web Components land, and all of it riding on top of either Drupal or Grav. And so I actually went so far as to port the Web Components module to Drupal 6 as well as Backdrop. There's some early work on porting it to Drupal 8 that still needs some love. And I recently ported it to Grav CMS. So the idea is that we have kind of just, if we teach our CMSs how to load and understand these things, it really simplifies our development experience after the fact, but it also can give us these awesome workflows for front-end people that don't care if it's Drupal 6 or 7 or 8 or Grav or some custom thing. They just want to make a nice looking donut card or whatever the thing is. So I hope this was beneficial to you. I am BTO Pro on the Twitter webs. Make sure to check out and download Champion and issue us lots of issues. Thanks.